Hello and welcome to another episode of Dave Trippin's Couch Therapy. So it's Wednesday and that means it must be time for some question and answers. If you didn't see the note in the last video, I like this series so much I'm going to do it twice a week, Monday, Wednesday. Monday is going to be a cultural discussion and every Wednesday I will be doing question and answers. So if you want your questions answered about life, love, anything else, maybe it's Japan related, that's fine too. Get a hold of me through any of the social media that I pop up on the screen here. Get a hold of me through email, it doesn't matter. I'll look at your questions and I'll answer it here. So the question today sent from Shauna. Thanks for subscribing, I appreciate that, Shauna. And if you haven't subscribed, you should already. Her question was about being alone in Japan, and I guess this could extend to any foreign country really. Alone in a strange place. So she's done it once before. The email reads, when I left the US, I worked in Denmark for a year and it was quite literally the best year of my life so far, and I wasn't ready to come home when the year was up. Things have worked out as they should so far, and I'm glad I came back when I did now. Interesting. Best year of your life, but you're glad that you came back when you did. I've wanted to work in Japan for close to 8 years, most of my adult life. What are you waiting for? What are you doing? Adult life. From my experience in Denmark, I know that 1 year won't be enough for me to experience all that I want to in Japan. And you're absolutely right. Unless it really is just a flash in the pan, you want to get in and get out. If you're really thinking about experiencing a country, a year would be a shadow of the actual full experience. I've been here coming up on 4 now, and I feel like I got a good 20 left in me, probably more. I know that 1 year won't be enough. I'm currently pursuing a job lead in Nagoya. Cool. I hear good things about Nagoya. I've never been, but I would love to visit. Also prepping for next year's JET application. Good luck with that. JET is mercilessly difficult to get into, but all the more an accomplishment if you do. If neither of those plans work out, I'll look into the other agencies for ALT or a Kaiwa for positions. Makes sense. You're giving yourself a bunch of different doors to walk through. That's what you want to do. What I haven't been able to rationalize away, though, is the guilt and fear of leaving again in pursuit of my experience. My father is older, my mother had a recent health scare, and they are giving me more responsibilities in the family. Recent events in my community have reminded me that the unexpected happens and time with my family is not guaranteed. How right you are. Also, now that I'm a little older, leaving will make it that much harder for me to find my ideal life partner, as I prefer not to face the challenges of an international marriage in the future. Oh, that could be a whole different question and answer video just for that. So how do you deal with the voices telling you you're being selfish or imprudent and that you will regret it later? I would love to hear your thoughts and perspective on this. Who should I go for here? A little Khalil Gibran. And he talks about children. And he says that when he says that, he talks about them in relation to their parents, he says, they are of them, but they are not them. And that's like the whole theme that I would go with this thing for. So you're right to appreciate your family. You're right to be aware of the precious time that you would spend with them. But I truly believe that as selfless as we could aspire to be in our lives, it is our own. And to not go out and experience your own adventure, experience the things that you're passionate about, is doing a sort of disservice to the whole point that you were born. Now, I should draw a very clear line here to say that if your family needs help, if there's a situation where support is required in a way that it's a kind of necessity, say for example, you had a relative or a parent or a sibling that you needed to look after, and they needed you to do that because there was no financial way that you would be able to do it otherwise. In that situation, support your family. That's what you should do. That's what family is for. But if each member of the family is able to support themselves or be independent or has, there's a relationship like a marriage that your parents have or whatever, but if each person in your family is self-sufficient to the point where most of what would be lost if you weren't there is your presence, then you should absolutely go for it. This is exactly the kind of thing that we would look back in our lives and with that clearly understood that the only thing they miss is you, then it wouldn't even be good if you were there. I'll liken this to sort of, we'll talk about relationships for a second, where there's a relationship where if you're with someone for a long period of time and things start to go south, they're going the way of the dodo. If that starts to happen, a lot of people will, out of fear of hurting that person, not end the relationship. But the reality is that their spirit is no longer in it, that they're not invested, that whatever form of love you want to call it is not the kind of love that really has them wanting to be there. And what inevitably happens, and I see it time and time again, is that something has to give, and it's usually the relationship. And what will happen is you'll reach a point where it will become easy to separate from that person, but only because you resent them so much that they've put your life on hold for so long. And the more difficult thing to do is to, when you see that this isn't working, that you don't feel the same passion that you did, you've given it a good go, it is harder but far and away more fulfilling if you do the difficult thing and end the relationship. And in fact, I've seen when people are willing to do this, that the relationship that they enjoy afterwards, because they didn't allow it to grow embittered and poisoned through time spent not really doing something that you care about, becomes something really, really, really beautiful. And there's, I think, more mutual respect. So I think there's no pretty words that can make go away the sort of difficulty that you're going to have when you leave, and also the sort of risks that are associated with it. You are going to miss your family. They are going to miss you. There is an inherent risk of being away from them, that you may not be around when they need you. Barring, when I say need you, I mean in something that's not absolutely life-threatening. You can, of course, while you're in Japan, to not make this overly dramatic, if something truly horrible happened, you can go back. You can always go back. But for those difficult times where we're looking for support that isn't necessarily life-threatening, you're not going to be there for them. And that is difficult. But it is far and away the better thing to do, because I think as well, for parents, as much as they're for anyone, because we all kind of, we share the same soul, so to speak, even if you really want somebody to stay, when you know that you're holding them back from something, you're going to feel bad about it. And the sort of every experience that you would share with that person while they were still around, in the back of your mind, you're going to be thinking, if you're aware at all, that I've held this person back, this child that I raised, and the whole time you tell them, live your dreams, I've said, forgo that, for me being slightly more comfortable, for me, you know, the monster at the door, I don't need to so much worry about that I'm going to be lonely, and this kind of thing. So, like I say, there's no pretty words, and there shouldn't be, because to use that platitude that like anything worth doing is always difficult is absolutely true. There's a reason that we repeat these kind of, you know, phrases of wisdom time and time again. It's because there probably is some weight behind them, and it's no different for going and doing something like this. And then maybe to go on a more positive tangent talking about this, the sort of person you become doing the things that you're really, really interested in, that you're really, really passionate about, will form you into a person who's going to be more of a contributing member to whatever family, social group, or whatever else you want to call it, that you belong to. You become a strong person. You become a person who's characterized by a breadth of experience and unique things that they've done, unique perspectives that they can offer. And if your goal the whole while was to be supportive, to be helpful, to be loving, going in pursuit of this kind of thing turns you into that kind of person. But admittedly, it's harder. It's always, always, always going to be harder. I talked about this the other day when I was doing like a collab video with another guy, and it was talking about leaving people behind, where usually when people go away to another country, or Japan specifically, I should say, that they do so when they're a lot younger, and much as you still have a bunch of friends when you come out of university, you're definitely more at a point in your life where you're willing to make that great leap and go off on your own and do all these really fun and interesting things, where I left a bit later, and so these social groups had solidified even more, so it was even more difficult. But I'm very blessed in the fact that I know how much they miss me, but for all the reasons that I'm now discussed in this video, how willing they were to see me go. I can say, not so much my dad. I think my dad was popping bottles as soon as I left the house. But I know definitely for my mom that it's really, really challenging, and it's challenging for me to think about Mama being back in Canada, that I don't see her so frequently, and it's usually limited to once a year. But damn it, it was worth it. So that's my thought, is that when you ask in your email, you said, how do you deal with the voices? I think one of the silliest things that anyone could ever advise or suggest is that those voices go away. They never do, but I'm making the point here is that everything you do has so much more value in the face of that contrast. Because you're making a difficult decision, it adds weight, it adds gravitas, it adds meaning to the action that you're taking. If everything, of course, was all easy and there were no repercussions and there was no risk, then, you know, what would be the point? Everything would be bland. Everything would be without salt. And that's not a life. That's not a life lived. So I would totally suggest, in fact, I would encourage, in fact, I would say you should go on this journey, and for whatever you do suffer for having left behind, let that kind of be the added indicator that you're doing the right thing. I think every day should be met with, like, if you're living a life that is ultimately comfortable, I don't think you're living the right life. If you wake up and you're pushing yourself in some way and you're overcoming something, then you're experiencing life at its fullest. So that's my question and answer. Being alone in Japan or anywhere else and leaving your family behind. It's a really important thing to consider, especially if you think about doing this for, I think for yourself, definitely with you phrased the question, Shauna, is that you'd probably consider doing this a little bit longer too. Because it's kind of silly if people are like, how do I leave my family behind and then go for a year? You need to grow some nuts and then just deal with being away from people for a little while. But that's definitely not the tone of this email. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, you can get a hold of me through all the social media and stuff like that. I'll be doing it every single Wednesday. Please do check out my book on Amazon if you're interested in a spicy psychological drama horror. Really good, getting a lot of good feedback from that. If you're interested, support me on Patreon. I really, really appreciate that too. It allows me to get one step closer to making this sort of, well, making the ultimate goal, which is to make this full time, traveling around Japan, wherever else in the world, making videos. Thank you so much. Why not hit that like button? Why not subscribe? In the following screen, you're gonna see the circle. That's a subscribe, smash that. And a link to the rest of Couch Therapy, and I'll do as well the link to all my travel videos being, of course, if you watch this you know, but if you're new to the channel, the kind of more like highly edited stuff that I do, which I release every Saturday. Alright, thanks for checking this video out. Peace.